Have you ever looked at your life and felt like you're watching a film someone else directed? As if the choices you've made, the roles you play, the goals you chase, weren't really yours to begin with. You wake up, show up, speak the lines, and move through the day, but somewhere beneath the surface, a quiet voice whispers, "This isn't me." If you've felt this, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not broken. Carl Jung believed that this discomfort, this internal tension, isn't a personal flaw, but a symptom, a sign that something vital has been lost along the way. Your connection to your true self. From the moment we're born, we're shaped by forces more powerful than we realize. Parents, teachers, religion, society, each with their own blueprint of how you should be. Be polite, be quiet, be successful, be agreeably. Don't feel too much. Don't question too loudly. Fit in, conform, obey. Slowly, you begin to trade authenticity for acceptance. And without even knowing it, you start living a script someone else wrote for you. You become a character, performing on cue, wearing the right expressions, saying the right things, but losing your own voice in the process. And today, that performance is only amplified. Social media has turned self-expression into self-curation. We present the highlight reel, the filtered smile, the curated career, the perfectly controlled brand. But the more we perform, the more disconnected we feel, because approval is not the same as authenticity, and external validation is a poor substitute for internal truth. Jung saw this clearly. He warned that when we ignore the call of the self, when we abandon the inner compass for the outer script, we pay for it with a deep, persistent sense of emptiness. The world may praise you, but your soul knows something is missing. And here's the painful irony. On the surface, everything can look right. You have the degree, the partner, the job, the praise, yet still feel lost. That's not failure. That's the beginning of awakening. Because to feel this disconnect means a part of you is still alive. The part that remembers who you were before the world told you who to be. And to find your way back, you must start at the beginning. You must trace the moment where you stopped being you and began becoming what others needed you to be. To feel this way isn't weakness. It's the beginning of awakening. But to understand what went wrong, we must look at the first mask we learned to wear. From the moment we enter the world, we begin to learn what is acceptable and what is not. We absorb it in glances, tones, praise, punishment. Don't cry. Don't speak too loudly. Be good. Be strong. Don't make things difficult. And so, little by little, we begin to construct a mask. Carl Jung called it the persona, the social face we wear to survive. Not to deceive, but to belong, to be safe, to be loved. We learn to smile, even when we feel hurt, to agree when we want to object, to succeed at roles others wrote for us. At first, the mask protects us. It helps us function in a world that doesn't always welcome our full humanity. But over time, the danger is that we forget the mask is a mask. We become so skilled at performing that we lose the thread of who we are beneath the performance. You play the overachiever, but inside, you're exhausted. You play the funny one, but inside, you're terrified of being taken seriously. You play the confident one, but inside you doubt every step. And the world rewards it. You get approval. You get applause. You get promotions. So you continue, believing that validation is proof you're doing something right. But here's the paradox. The better you get at wearing the mask, the harder it becomes to take it off. You start curating not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. Eventually, the distinction between the role and the real collapses. You no longer know where the mask ends and you begin. And when that happens, something subtle but profound occurs. You stop feeling alive. You go through the motions. You meet expectations, but something inside grows quiet, dim, distant. This is what Jung warned us about. When we over-identify with the persona, we lose access to the deeper layers of the psyche. The authentic self retreats, not out of weakness, but because it no longer has room to speak. And yet, most people continue. They double down on the mask, hoping that if they perfect it just a little more, the emptiness will finally disappear. But it won't, because masks don't nourish the soul. They only protect it, temporarily. But behind every mask, there's a shadow. And the longer we hide behind the mask, the darker that shadow becomes. If the persona is the mask we show the world, then the shadow is everything we hide behind it. Carl Jung described the shadow as the unconscious part of us, emotions, instincts, memories, and impulses that society told us were unacceptable, and that we, in turn, buried. But what we bury doesn't disappear. It waits. Have you ever overreacted to something small, then thought, "That wasn't like me?" But deep down, you knew it was. That was your shadow slipping through. The shadow holds your suppressed anger, your grief, yalasa, shame, sensitivity, rage, all the parts of you labeled too much or not enough. Maybe you were taught anger was dangerous, so you smiled through your fury until it exploded on the wrong person. Maybe you were told emotions were weak, so you buried them, and now they come out as numbness, anxiety, or chronic burnout. The shadow doesn't fade with silence. It finds other ways to speak. This is one of Jung's greatest truths. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And here's where psychology and physiology meet. Your body remembers what your mind rejects. Every emotion you suppress, every truth you deny, your nervous system holds onto it. That's why unprocessed emotions show up in your body. Tight shoulders, fatigue, jaw clenching, stomach knots. These aren't just stress. They're signals. Your body whispers, there's something you haven't faced yet. The tragedy is that much of what ends up in the shadow isn't dangerous or evil. It's simply human, raw, real, vulnerable. You're not broken because you feel envy. You're not defective because you get angry. You're not weak because you want to be seen. You're human. And the path to wholeness doesn't lie in perfection. It lies in integration. To reclaim yourself, you must first reclaim the parts you rejected, not to act them out, but to see them, understand them, honor them. That's how the shadow loses its power, not by fighting it, but by meeting it with awareness and compassion. Because only when you face the shadow can you begin to understand the full shape of your story. But if you are not the mask, and you are not the shadow, then who are you? The answer lies deeper. You've met the shadow. Now, ask yourself, what's left when both are gone? Carl Jung called it the self. Not your ego, not your personality, but the totality of who you truly are. The self is your inner center, not a role you perform, but the deeper essence that remains when all the masks fall away. It's not found through success, titles, or identity. It's revealed through integration, bringing together all parts of yourself, light and dark, strong and wounded, known and unknown. Jung called this process individuation. It's not about becoming better. It's about becoming whole. It doesn't mean fixing what's broken. It means facing what's been hidden. You begin to see the stories you've carried, the roles you've outgrown, and slowly, you let them go. You make choices from alignment, not pressure. You speak more truth, even if your voice shakes. You stop chasing approval Because you've remembered your own authority. Individuation asks you to stop running from the version of yourself that feels too much or not enough. And in that honesty, you begin to feel peace, a quiet sense of rightness, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer pretending. But this path isn't easy. It's rarely glamorous. Often, it's quiet, sometimes lonely, always humbling, because to individuate, you must first admit you've been performing, and then you must sit with what remains. When the act ends, you forgive the version of you who wore the mask to survive, and you welcome the one underneath, the one who has been waiting to live in full color. Because beneath all the roles and resistance, there is something unbroken, something sacred, something true. And when you live from that place, even for a moment, you feel it. Peace, where there used to be noise. Clarity, where there was confusion. Wholeness, where you once felt fractured. The self doesn't erase pain, it integrates it. It makes space for contradiction. It gives meaning to your story. And when you live from that truth, you stop asking, "Who should I be?" and start asking, "What feels right for me?" You stop living to be accepted and start living to be real. Not for show, not for applause, but for presence. But the self is not built alone. To truly know who you are, you must understand the invisible forces shaping you from within. What if the story you're living was never truly yours to begin with? What if the goals you pursue, the roles you play, even the fears that hold you back, were shaped by invisible forces, older than your personal memories? Carl Jung believed that beneath your conscious mind lies a shared psychological inheritance, the collective unconscious. This unconscious isn't personal, it's universal, a reservoir of ancient patterns, symbols, and instincts that transcend culture, time, and geography. From this deep well emerge archetypes, primordial blueprints of human experience, not characters, but internal structures that shape how we relate to ourselves, others, and the world. They live in our myths, our dreams, our religions, and they live within you. Take the hero, the one who rises, faces trials, and proves their worth through struggle. You see it in stories, and in people who always feel they must conquer something to be worthy. Or the caregiver, the one who gives and gives, even if it means abandoning their own needs. Or the rebel, who burns down systems, questions everything, but often struggles to build anything lasting. And the sage, seeker of truth, lover of solitude, but sometimes disconnected from real emotion. These archetypes are not chosen consciously. They are activated through our upbringing, culture, and trauma. And here's the danger. When one dominates unchecked, it distorts our life. You might think you're chasing purpose, but really, you're caught in the hero's loop, constantly proving, never pausing. Or maybe the caregiver in you refuses to set boundaries because you've equated self-worth with self-sacrifice. We see this everywhere. The perfectionist, terrified of failure, clinging to control. The achiever, addicted to success but internally numb. The people pleaser, drowning in yeses, starving for self. These aren't flaws. They're echoes of ancient patterns, pulling your strings. And the solution is not to eliminate them, but to recognize them, to pause and ask, which archetypes are steering my life? Which ones have I suppressed, feared, or ignored? Because individuation, the path to becoming whole, means intégration, balance. It means letting each inner voice speak, without letting any one of them take over the story. Only then do you stop being a character and become the conscious author. But what happens when we ignore all of this? When we live only as masks and never become whole? Non-individuation. What happens when we ignore all of this? When we move through life, wearing the persona, burying the shadow, letting archetypes run our lives in silence. Never questioned, never balanced. Carl Jung had a warning. The cost of avoiding individuation is not just emotional, it is existential. When you don't become yourself, you suffer. Not always loudly, but deeply, persistently, invisibly. You might look fine from the outside. A stable job, a decent relationship, a life that checks all the boxes. But inside, something's missing. A emptiness, a sense that you're going through the motions, but never truly arriving anywhere. Success becomes muted. Joy feels distant. You achieve, but you don't feel alive. That's the tragedy of non-individuation. You become what others expect and forget who you really are. And the self, the part of you that knows the truth, doesn't stay silent forever. It pushes back through chronic anxiety, through depression, through emotional exhaustion that doesn't match the life you're living. Your psyche starts to sabotage the story you're performing, because deep down, it knows this isn't your story, and it doesn't end there. You repeat toxic patterns. You sabotage relationships. You re-enter the same emotional cycles, even when you know better. It's not bad luck. It's a part of you screaming to be seen. And then comes the emotion few ever talk about: resentment. You begin to resent your partner, your work, your family, not because they failed you, but because you were never truly there. You were playing a part. And that resentment, sometimes it turns outward, blaming others for your pain. Other times, it turns inward, becoming shame, numbness, or the slow erosion of hope. You tell yourself, this is just life, but it's not. It's life, lived in disconnection from yourself. Jung warned, when the true self is ignored, the psyche fragments. You split into roles, into masks, into defense mechanisms that were meant to protect you, but now only keep you small. And yet, even in that fragmentation, there's still a part of you that remembers wholeness, that remembers who you were before the world got too loud. But there is a way out, a life beyond the roles, a version of you that isn't surviving, but finally, truly living. What happens when you begin to take the mask off? When you stop performing, stop pleasing, stop hiding, and finally show up as who you truly are. It doesn't make life perfect, but it does make it yours. You begin to live as a whole person, not a role, not a version sculpted by others, but someone grounded in clarity, depth, and truth. You stop bending to please. You stop hiding to be liked. And for the first time, you breathe. And for the first time, you breathe without guilt. You speak with intention. You choose with conviction. This is what it means to live without the mask. Your relationships change, not necessarily because others do, but because you stop showing up as half of who you are. You begin to attract people who value authenticity, not perfection. You listen better. You express more honestly. You recognize what no longer serves you, and instead of forcing it to fit, you let it fall away. Your work, your choices, your lifestyle, all begin to align with your inner compass, not someone else's expectations. You stop chasing the life that looks right and start creating one that feels right. But here's what few will tell you. Living as your true self isn't always easy. It means shedding identities that once protected you. It means risking judgment, navigating uncertainty, and accepting that not everyone will understand your path. Because truth has a price, but so does pretending. And eventually, the cost of pretending becomes unbearable. That's why freedom isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing truth despite fear. You become the writer of your own life. You toss out the script handed to you and begin composing a new one, line by line, scene by scene. You say, "Yes, that was me. Yes, I wore that mask. But now, I choose differently." You shift from reacting out of habit to responding from awareness, from being shaped by others to shaping your own way forward. This isn't rebellion, it's reclamation. You're not escaping life. You're finally entering it, fully, honestly, unapologetically. And here's the quiet miracle. When you live without the mask, you become a mirror, not of perfection, but of what's possible when someone dares to live in truth. But this freedom comes with a price. It demands courage. And that's the question now. Will you choose comfort or truth? The journey to your true self is not easy. It's not glamorous. It's not something you can complete in a weekend or check off like a goal. It's uncomfortable. It's disorienting. It requires you to face what you've hidden, to question what you've believed, and to let go of who you thought you had to be. But it's worth it, because when you begin this journey, truly begin, you're not just changing your life, you're reclaiming it. You stop chasing approval. You start making choices that reflect who you are, not who you were told to be. You no longer feel like a stranger in your own story. You become the one writing it. And yes, there will be fear, because authenticity always comes with risk. But what's the alternative? To keep living someone else's life? To keep playing a role that no longer fits? To reach the end of your days, never having truly met yourself? So I'll ask you, not as a narrator, but as another human walking this path with you, who have you been? And who are you ready to become? Are you willing to face the masks? To meet the shadow? To integrate what you've denied? And live from what is real? Because if even a small part of you said yes, then you're ready. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to begin. Right here, right now. If even one line echoed inside you, don't just comment. Declare, "I am no longer the mask." And if you want more guidance on this path, subscribe. Not for motivation, but for truth, for depth, for the real work that no one else can do but you. You've seen the map. Now, the pen is in your hand. Will you write your truth, or keep rehearsing a role you never chose?